Good morning, YouTube. Brian Quick here with the Fly Shop, and we got a serious atmospheric river slamming us, definitely to the south. It's raining. We got all kinds of runoff happening, and all the rivers are blown. Too windy to fish the lake, so I'll be on the vise today after I get my hair cut. And by the way, it's New Year's, so Happy New Year's. So the fly I'm going to be tying today is going to be replacing a bunch that I fished this year. This fly, I've used it in Montana, Idaho, used it around here on the lower Sac, upper Sac, McLeod, Pitt. It works great everywhere. Today, we're going to be tying the olive hotspot. I've got a number 16 olive hotspot jigged up in the vise. It's got a nice spare tapered olive body. You can use it to imitate a lot of stuff, and sometimes it's just the fish like to eat it. So, all right. Now, as far as materials go, we're going to start off with it's a Jig Force, Fulling Mills Jig Force number 16, and it's a great hook. For the bead, we're using a tungsten slotted silver bead. It's a hairline, 7/64 inch or 2.8 millimeter. We're going to use some ultra thread, 70 denier in olive for the body, and for the hotspot, some Danville's 70 denier orange. For the tail, we're going to use some Coq de Leon dark speckled. It's my favorite color. And let's start off with getting a hook set up in the vise. We're going to spin it a little bit, so you want to get it so that's pretty much on axis and level. And then start your olive thread right behind the bead. And then to secure the bead up near the front of the hook, what you're going to want to do is use a whole bunch of wraps right behind it. And this one's a little off center. I'm going to go ahead and get it where I want it, and then put a whole bunch more wraps behind it until it's secure. It should about do it. All right, now I'm going to uncord my thread, and then I'm going to run it all the way back to the bend of the hook. And I want it to be relatively flat. All right, that looks good right about there. Now I'm going to take my Coq de Leon and fan it out and grab about 3 fibers. There's 3 right there. Measure it on the hook. You want it about the length of the body. Use a pinch wrap. Make a couple of loose wraps. And if it's a little bit too long, you can release the tension and shorten it just a little bit. That looks perfect. And then advance your thread all the way to just behind the bead. And I'm going to use the sharp portion of my scissors here to get rid of those, like that. Okay. Next, we're going to tie in our ribbing, which is black body quill. I'm going to make a couple wraps here, and then make sure my thread is uncorded. I'm going to hold it off to the side here on the front and just make some nice touching even wraps all the way to just behind where the tail is, and then bring it back forward. And then I'm going to bring it back and make a nice tapered flat body right about there, and bring it back forward to right behind the bead. And then I'm going to secure it up front here with a couple of turns with my whip finisher, and then I'm going to rest my thread on the rest. And then I'm going to grab my body quill, and using the rotary feature on my vise, I'm going to advance it up and make some nice even wraps to give it a segmented look all the way to just behind the bead. use 2 tight wraps and 1 wrap just in front, and again part it. Nice. Okay, you want to avoid any fibers sticking out, because then they'll mess up your wing case. All right, next we're going to take our orange Danville's and start it right behind the bead, and then I'm going to grab the tag ends of that and the olive thread and advance my thread to just behind the bead. This is going to secure the olive thread. Okay, now next thing is we're going to get rid of the Danville's, the tag end, and then the olive thread. And what I like to do now is I like to look at this portion of the hotspot right in here and see if there's any olive thread showing through. And I don't see any, so I'm going to advance the thread up here, and then I'm going to use about 3 or 4 turns for the whip finish. You don't need a lot. And then I'm going to snip off. And I've got a flyer up here, so I'm going to trim that. You don't have to go crazy. All right, to finish the fly off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some thick UV resin. I'm going to put some right in the void here where the slot is on the bead. Just enough to fill it up so that we don't have any weird looking voids there. And then cure it. About 5 seconds should do it. Next, I'm going to take some thin UV glue. I'm going to use a little bit so I can coat the body, and this will seal everything up and make it a little more durable. You don't want too much on there, or you could run the risk of clogging the eye, and that's no bueno when you're on the river trying to tie on a fly. And then you can distribute it throughout the body, kind of coat it. It'll make the thread a little bit darker. And at this point, I am going to spin it in my vise to let it evenly distribute itself using gravity, and then cure it for about 15 seconds. Okay, now for the wing case, I'm going to use some Solarise in black. And this UV resin has a lot of pigment in it, so you don't want to get it on there super thick. And I go from the bottom, and it looks like I do have a flyer down there, so I'm going to do a couple of coats. Get some more over here. And since there's a lot of pigment in there, the UV light can't penetrate down to the bottom, to the lower layers. And you want to cure it for at least 10, if not 15 seconds. Like that. And I've got a few thread flyers here. Still looks good. That'll catch fish. So while we got these atmospheric rivers happening right now, you may as well get on the vise and tie up about a dozen of these and get out and fish them. You can catch fish all over the place. I've used them in Montana, Idaho, every single river up here. So tie up a dozen. Tell us how you do in the comments. I'm Brian Quick with the Fly Shop, and I hope you can get out and fish as much as you like.